All right, welcome everybody to another CMX Masterclass. How's everyone doing? Post in the chat. You could share your books that you've read recently. All right, Loring loves the book that I read. You could share what you ate most recently today, how the weather's looking where you're from, where you're from. All right, Jessica had some oatmeal and some Irish breakfast tea. Having some English breakfast right now. What's up, David? How you doing, man?
Hi, everyone.
Welcome. All right. Well, I'm gonna tee things off here before I hand it off to David, and welcome everyone to the event. So as you all start rolling in, we have a great crowd today. Lots of registrations for this event. Very excited to spend the next hour with you all. All right, what's on the agenda for today? So first off, we're gonna just chat here for a few minutes, and I'll walk you through kind of the housekeeping for the event. We're going to spend about 45 minutes here with David chatting, and then we're going to open up into Q&A to make sure that we get to all of your questions at the end of the event, and then we'll wrap things up. All right, the CMX values, and these are the values that we bring into every event that we host and every online community space that we host. We want everyone to bring these values into the community and how we interact with each other. Number one is be generous. Help each other out. If someone has a question, if someone's looking for insight, if someone needs mentorship, step up and try to help out. Give more than you take, and the whole community will benefit as a result. Number two, our second value is be groundbreaking. We are all trying to essentially build an entire industry here in the community industry. And so we try to push each other to innovate, to try new things, to experiment and share what we're learning with each other. And finally, be actively inclusive. We want this to be a very welcoming and safe space. So please make sure to check out the CMX Code of Conduct if you haven't already. You can always refer back to that and help make sure that every single person who comes to this event feels welcome, feels included, and feels safe in this space. Our goals for all of our CMX events for these master classes. Number one is to help you connect with each other. So hopefully you leave this event meeting at least one other person through the chat and through the conversation that you can follow up with and have more conversations with and continue to learn from. Number two is to learn. We want you to walk away with at least one actionable thing from today's chat that you'll be able to apply to your community tomorrow. And number three is to advocate. We run these events to also be promoting the work of building community, help community professionals succeed and thrive, which is our mission. And so these are our three goals for the events, and hope you all walk away from this event with those three things. A couple quick announcements. Number one is the Community Industry Awards. Nominations are now open. This is our annual awards program that we run at CMX. You can nominate any community professional and community for a range of different categories. We'll post the link here in the chat. Just look out for Ivan's message so you can go ahead and nominate as many people and communities as you want for the Community Industry Awards and spotlight the amazing people doing work in this space. Second up, we are using Bevy today. So if you're not familiar with Bevy, we are a community-led event platform. So you can run virtual events like this. You can run full virtual conferences like CMX Summit, which we just hosted, and hopefully all of you got a chance to participate in that. And you can empower your local community members to self-organize chapters and events all in one centralized platform. So if you're ever interested in checking out Bevy for your own community-led event programs, give us a shout. You can just go to bevy.com or message any of us on the team here in the chat. And finally, just so you're all aware, our next masterclass is going to be on October 12th with Nisha Baxi from Gong. She's an amazing community builder, and she's going to be walking through the 90-day plan that she went through to launch the Gong community. So for those of you who are launching a new community or thinking about how to launch a new program within your community and want to have more of a cohesive plan, this is an event you're not going to want to miss. Nisha's awesome. You're going to learn a ton. All right. Without further ado, today's speaker. Today, we are very pleased to have David Meltzer here. Today, it's a really interesting topic. We're going to be talking about how to align your messages with your core audience, choose content and mediums that will actually reach the right audience at the right time, and how to use the stage theory to amplify and perpetuate your message. David is a co-founder of Sports One Marketing and formerly served as a CEO of the renowned Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment Agency, which was the inspiration for the movie Jerry Maguire. I love that movie. It's a great one. David has been recognized by Variety magazine as their Sports Humanitarian of the Year and awarded the Ellis Island Medal of Honor. He's also the executive producer of the Bloomberg and Amazon Prime television series 2-Minute Drill and Office Hours. His life's mission is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. This simple yet powerful mission has led him on an incredible journey to provide one thing: value. In all of his content, communication, that's exactly what you'll receive. As part of this mission, over the past 20 years, he's been providing free weekly trainings to empower others to be happy. All right, David, really appreciate you coming and joining us. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much. What an opportunity to talk about something that's so important today, which is community. And the way that we build a community is to build our own brand, our own frequency. You see, you can only be aware of that which vibrates equal to or less than you. And everything vibrates. The earth vibrates the slowest, then plants, animals, humans, then sound, and then light, and then thought. And the thing that vibrates the fastest is the truth. The fastest thought that vibrates is the truth. And finding your frequency is finding your own truth. You see, most people go through life either as a tube, food in, food out, paycheck in, paycheck out, or they go through life trying to search and seek what other people want for them, what's missing or what they don't want. And they never find their own frequency because they're so busy trying to take on other people's frequency or vibration, and they're only aware of what other people want, what's missing, and what they don't want, and then they're only surprised when they get what other people want, what there's missing, and what they don't want. What we need to do is to find who we are, and the way that we find who we are is to utilize 5 daily practices. Most people don't think about these things. They're so in search of their why, they don't realize that their why is already within them, that they give meaning to everything that they see, that they cannot find outside in a community what they can't find inside themselves. And what's inside themselves is what builds their brand and what builds their community. And so we need to utilize 5 daily practices to find that frequency, to strengthen the signal of who we are. I am happy. I am wealthy. I am worthy, and I am wealthy. What am I doing to interfere with is the bigger question. And so by utilizing the 5 daily practices that leverages a conscious continuum, creates a habit machine, but most importantly, what it does is it strengthens our signal so that more people can be aware of us, more people who have the same frequency of us, that can tune into who we are, who approve and align and are inspired by who we are. The greatest thing about the size, scope, and scale of the audience today is that there can be people like Dr. Pimple Popper. I love Dr. Pimple Popper because she inspires me to find my own frequency. Number one, because I think popping pimples is probably one of the most disgusting things in the world, and it's really not at my frequency. But what it illustrates to me in finding my own frequency and building my own brand is that this woman who consistently, persistently enjoys the pursuit of her potential as a dermatologist, as a pimple popper, has more ambassadors and followers than the entire Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's right, the most popular sport in America, 2-1. You take all of the greatest 270 heroes of that sport, and this woman, Dr. Pimple Popper, has a bigger community than all of them. How is that possible? Because she found her signal, her frequency, and she realized that although there's 6.8 billion people available to her in the social realm of the internet and social media, that it takes very few to find a big community. That if 6.7 billion of those people never heard of Dr. Pimple Popper or hated pimple being popped like me or disgusted by it, that she still would be one of the most popular or biggest communities in the world, with just 0.1 billion of those people who love to watch pimples being popped and are part of that community, the pimple popping community. We need to find our own frequency. We need to know who we are by utilizing these 5 daily practices. So how do we find that frequency to strengthen our signal? The first step is to know your what. See, when you know your what, you're taking inventory every day in consideration of long-term and intermediate objectives of I call them milestones, because I never want to attach my emotions to an outcome. So many people talk about goals. Goals are things that you attach your emotion to and say, I'm only happy when I graduate, when I make my first. That creates resistance. I believe in milestones. I believe in the beyond, between limitlessness and infinity. So when I look at my what, taking in consideration the long-term and midterm objectives or milestones that I have, I'm taking inventory today and every day, daily practice of what I want personally, what I want experientially, what I want to give, to provide value, and most importantly, what I want to receive. Because although in my life I learned the more I give, the more I receive, you can't give what you don't have. You can't give gratitude that you don't have. You can't give forgiveness you don't have. You can't give accountability that you don't have. You can only give what you have. And if what you have you appreciate, it's expanding. When you appreciate something, it adds value to it. And then you can acknowledge what you have. How? By giving it away. See, the more we have, the more we can give. So I appreciate everything I've received. I appreciate it, add value to it. Then I acknowledge it by giving it away. And the daily practice of knowing what I want personally, experientially, giving and receiving, not a balance between the two, but a weighted balance according to this day, then I'm not afraid of being a hypocrite. Why? Because the best thing I can be in life is a hypocrite, meaning that I change my mind. Because every time I change my mind, it means I've grown. I've learned something. That pain, mistakes, failures, setbacks are just indicators, turn signals that I have a better place to be. It's not punishment. They're actually propelling me to a better place. So I'm not afraid to tell even my own children, hey, you know what? I didn't know what I didn't know. There's either ignorant and humble people or ignorant and arrogant people. Both sets of people don't know what they don't know. Therefore, they shouldn't take themselves so seriously. They should always do their best, learn lessons, and have fun, but they should be ignorant and humble in what they do when they take these daily inventory of the what. The second thing that we want to do to strengthen our signal, like Dr. Pimple Popper, is know our who. Knowing our who is essential for efficiencies, for the speed in which we can get what we want and where we want to be. So the who is already sitting in a situation we want to be in. Who is it that can give us directions to where we want to go? And who can we help? The who's in our life, we need to know what we want, and we need to know the who's of our lives, who we can help and who can help us. Then the third daily practice of strengthening that signal, of becoming and building a brand to attract a community, to resonate like a beacon, who you are as far as values go, who you are as far as changing, learning, and loving, and finding the light, the love, and the lessons, raising your frequency so more people can be aware of you. You need to know how. Now, there's very pragmatic ways of knowing your how. Number one, in order to know your how, you need to study what you want. Not what other people want for you, not what's missing or not what you don't want, but study what you want. And when we put our attention, our focus in on what we want, and add our intention, what we think, what we say, what we do, what we believe, even taking in consideration the unconscious competencies, our quantum nature, the things that's been inherited genetically and energetically, of the personality traits that display themselves, the characteristics, the obsessions and addictions. When we add our intention to attention it equals the coincidences in our lives. It's actually a mathematical equation of luck. It's a mathematical equation of faith. So I formulate in not only knowing my what, my who, but my how by studying my activities. You see, everybody's given in the construct of time, that speed of light, one thing that sits below the speed of thought. The speed of light is the time in which a particle of light leaves the sun and reaches the earth. It's about 186,000 miles per second. And how am I going to use that time? Everyone's gifted 24 hours of man-made constructive times. We have activity we have planned, activity we don't have planned, and our sleep. And so I study those each day with attention and intention to create the coincidences that I want by my what and my who. I study what I have planned. I study what I don't have planned, that blank space in my calendar, that non-time that's wasted every single day. And I study my sleep. I study my sleep so much that I've reverse engineered the daily activity or the daily construct that most people live in. See, most people live the myth of Sisyphus. Camus wrote about this in The Stranger, right? They wake up in the morning, food in, food out, and they have a boulder and they roll the boulder to the top of the hill all day long. And when they wake up the next day, the boulder's back at the bottom of the hill. Same activities, up the hill. But when you shift the paradigm of time and you utilize your attention and intention to create the coincidences you want with activity that you have planned, activity you don't have planned, and your sleep. See, I start my tomorrow today. 9 p.m. is Pacific time is my start of the day. I have an unwinding routine that puts my mind, my body, and my soul not only in the best place of recovery so that I can plateau the next day, meaning start the day at a higher self at a new baseline in order to grow from, learn from, find the light from, etc. But I actually utilize it as time to access my ego out of my way. The ego getting the interference between me and the greatest source of light, love, and lessons, the thoughtful, higher vibrating, higher frequency of self. So each day when I have no alcohol, no caffeine, no negative energy, no negative content, no negative conversations by 9 p.m., I pass out, putting my body in a point of recovery, but also my mind and soul. But more importantly, I'm accessing the higher source of thought all night long. So when I arise at 4 a.m., I'm at my higher self, a higher self than the one that existed the day before, a stronger frequency to build a brand and create a community of open-minded, open-hearted, and open-handed like me. Exacerbating and accelerating and exponentially growing the community 2 by 2 by 2. See, when you have a strong signal and build a brand in a community, you start to identify the spectrum because the spectrum identifies itself. And so when we know our what, our who, and our how, we now have a very powerful tool called decision making. See, most people, procrastinator feels that they're lazy because they don't know their what, their who, and their how, the 3 first steps of daily practices, so that they can utilize the 4th step of prioritization by doing it now. 100% of the things you do now get done. 100% of the things you do now get done. And you need to prioritize by what's important. You see, urgency is a subset of importance. It's not the superset. Just because something urgent doesn't make it as important. If it's important, then it should be urgent and you should prioritize it and get it done now, because 100% of the things you do now get done. And people who are passionate, purposeful, and profitable, people who strengthen their signal and have a large spectrum of community, they get stuff done. And so get things done. The minute you get something done, it takes half as much time if you do it now than if you didn't. And it has a higher rate of statistical success exponentially over putting it off. And so the 4th step is proof of the first 3 steps of daily practices in order to strengthen your signal and find your spectrum and frequency. That is to do it now. Know your now. Then finally, the fifth step, the fifth step allows us to clear our message, to connect more clearly. And, Lou Holtz, the head coach of Notre Dame, had a saying, it's not what I say, it's what they hear. So even if you're able to strengthen your signal to reach many more people and identify that spectrum, you need to apply your why to that spectrum. Now, the interesting thing of building that spectrum, the second step of finding the frequency, is that people don't understand spectrums. They don't understand segmentation and exponential growth and compound interest. I met a guy 4.5, almost 5 years ago at the Super Bowl who wanted my help building his sports agency. He wanted some advice, him and his brother, a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk and AJ Vaynerchuk. And as we were discussing, me helping them with their sports agency, they had suggested to help me strengthen my signal, to find my spectrum, to build my brand and find my frequency with my mission of empowering over 1 billion people to be happy. This would be the best methodology. And this guy who I know very well, Gary Vaynerchuk, he said, so what would be your objective? And I said, well, I think in year one, I'd like to have 2 community members. He said, well, a whole year in building your frequency, strengthening Dave, 2 community members, that's all you want? You don't want millions of followers? I said, no, I want 2 community members. I want 2 people in year one that will tell everyone to read my books, hire me to speak, listen to my podcast, my TV shows, Office Hours, 2-Minute Drill. I want 2 people that will get me 2 people to join the community every year that will get me 2 people. And he looked perplexed because he was stuck up into the Instagram game of millions of followers. And he said, well, what's that going to get you? And I said, well, to be honest, it will help me engage, most importantly, empower, elevate, and celebrate others to the point where when I'm 70, I was 50 at the time, when I'm 70, I'll be one of the most powerful people on the internet. I said, how would you figure that? I said, well, you're going to help me strengthen my signal. You're going to help me with that beacon, that signal, find the right spectrum. But this is how the spectrum is going to grow. And when the spectrum grows, I'll be able to utilize the 5th step of my daily practice to apply my why to the signal and to the spectrum in order to clarify my message. But spectrumization, 2 turns into 4, 4 turns into 8. So I used the lily pond example for him. I said, imagine my community is a lily pond. And year one, I'm asking you, Gary, to help me build 1 lily in my lily pond. And in year 2, I'm asking you to have 2 lily ponds. Help me build 2 lily ponds in my community, my lily pond. In year 3, I want to have 4 lilies in my lily pond. In year 4, I want to have 8. In year 5, I want to have 16. See, what happens is in year 18, I'll be 90% of the way there, but only have 25% of the community that I would have in 20 years. And most people, 99% of them, will quit before they even get to 25% of the way there, because it's so subtle, the growth, the exponential growth, the compound interest of aggregation. And it works against itself because all the positive behaviors, I see no result, and all the negative behaviors, I don't expect a result. So I start leaning into the negative behaviors and the negative talk and not finding my frequency, but finding and listening to what other people think, what's missing, what's not there, and I end up quitting. And the saddest thing is, in year 19, I'm 50% of the way there. And in year 20, I'm 100% of the way there. In year 21, I'm 200% of the way there. My community is 4 million people getting me 4 million people, making me just like Dr. Pimple Popper, a huge community of people, like-minded, open-minded, open-hearted, and open-handed people, all willing to either be a sponsor of mine to find someone to support me, or to support me themselves and find someone to support me, in helping people make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun. You need to strengthen that signal with these daily practices. build that community utilizing acceleration, growth, spectrumization. And if you do, it will clarify the message with step 5, applying your why. Most people live their life trying to find their why. I believe in applying your why. Why? Because I am healthy, happy, wealthy, and worthy. What am I doing to interfere with it? I'll tell you, I'm a number one, identifying the triggers of the ego. See, the ego creates that interference. The ego is created for the primal fears that we have, the need to feed, fight, flee, or fornicate. All of those things create interference with a need to be right, a need to be offended, a need to be a separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful. All of these needs of the ego. Imagine if we took all the time, emotion, and value, if we just took the time that we spent with the need to worry, right? Worrying's wishing for what you don't want. It's wishing for what you don't want. And guess what? If you start wishing for what you don't want, you're going to get what you don't want. When I was in law school, I used to pray, please don't put the rules of perpetuity on the law school test. Please, not the rules of perpetuity. You know what the first question was? The rules of perpetuity. So what we need to do in step 5, once we know our what, our who, our how, and our now, to apply our why, we need to identify what triggers that ego. And when we identify what people, what places, what ideas, what meaning that we're giving to things to create the need to worry, the need to be anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, separate, inferior, superior, right, offended, all those needs, instead of fighting it, going over it, under it, through it, around it, instead of trying to resist it, because what you resist will persist, simply stop. Stop and breathe through your nose, out through your mouth. Drop down to center, to neutral, to that plateau in the morning, the higher self, the one that lives in neutrality, connected to and through the greatest source of love, light, and lessons, allowing you to receive it with appreciation, to add value, and then acknowledge it and give it away. Acquire the knowledge of what you have by giving it away. And when we can stop and then drop to center, it'll enable us to what? To roll, to move in the right trajectory of what we want personally, experientially, giving and receiving wise, who we can help and, how, and who can help us, how we can get it done by being a student of our calendar, the studying of the activity we have planned, don't have planned, and even our sleep. Knowing there's no work, there's just activity we get paid for and activity we don't get paid for. We start applying our why by knowing our what, our who, our how, and applying our why to what we want. And if we do that, we will have a clear message and our frequency will continue to grow exponentially. Our spectrum and community will continue to grow exponentially. And the clarity of who we are, from getting rid of the interference, the clarity of who we are. Do you know who we are? One of the greatest lessons that I learned. For those who have parents or have ever had parents, and those who are parents, imagine how much your parents cared about you and what they'd be willing to do for you. And then if you are a parent, imagine what you're willing to do for your children. And realize how ignorant and humble or ignorant and arrogant you are. Some of the most ignorant, arrogant people are the people that love us the most. They think they know what's best for us. They do not know. They can only give you advice, and it's up to you to align it with your what, you, who, your how, and your now, to apply your why by identifying what's synergistic, supplementary to what you want, how, and who, and why you want it. But in the meantime, the people who care most about us, right? They imagine how much they would do for us. Well, the clarity portion of this frequency of your brand is knowing that there is an omniscient source, an all-powerful, all-knowing source, however you identify or define it. And knowing that that omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source feels the same about you that your parents feel about you or you feel about your children, except for that is omniscient, all-knowing, and you're ignorant and humble or arrogant. Oh my gosh, if that doesn't give you the insurance policy of a lifetime called faith, I don't know what will. So find your frequency by strengthening your signal, by growing exponentially the spectrum, the audience and community, and clarifying your message so it will grow faster. So instead of 20 years, the first year you'll get 1 lily pad, 11 months later 2, 10 months later 4, 9 months later 8. So not only will you compound the interest of your community, you also will accelerate its growth. This is how you build a brand from within. You give meaning to everything you see. You need to know your what, your who, your how, your now, and apply your why. If anyone wants these daily practices, this habit machine, in order to find and strengthen your signal, your spectrum, and build your community, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. I will be happy to send you the 5 daily practices. I will send you an ebook, audiobook. I will sign a copy of my book, pay for it, send it to you, ship it to you. Just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Now, what do we do with that? Now, this is where Shakespeare changed my life. I was an English major, but didn't really like to read or really enjoy Shakespeare. I found it very difficult to read. But there's 2 things that he taught as I got older and older that changed my life. One, which is applicable to finding your frequency, strengthening your signal, building your community, and clarifying your message, is to thine own self be true. Right? We are going to know what we want, who can help us, who we can help, how we're going to get it done, doing it now, and applying our why to what we want, not what other people want for us, what's missing or what we don't want. But the second lesson has had the most impact on branding. I've been branding the biggest celebrities, athletes, entertainers, millionaires, billionaires, and entrepreneurs for over 35 years. I ran the most notable sports agency in the world and had one of the largest and most notable sports marketing companies with Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon. They made movies about my firm, all about how to brand and market. But Shakespeare had it right. The whole world is your stage. So I created the stage theory that changed the entire face of that frequency. Because there's 4 steps in the stage theory in order to build your brand. Once you found your frequency and started to establish strengthening the signal and the spectrum and the clarifying of the message, you need to capture it. You need to capture it because capturing it allows you to utilize the stage theory. And so you need to have a process, system, and people to capture what you do, to capture your frequency. And so you should have a strategy on how to capture your frequency. Here on this Bev platform or other digital platforms, I have 2 different phones at all times, trying to make sure that I'm repositing the lessons and stories so that I can share them all over the world. So every activity that I study, that I plan and I don't have planned, and even my sleep, I'm looking at a capture strategy to see how I can capture the lessons and the stories, the light and the lessons that I've learned, because life is about lessons and the lessons will keep on coming until we learn them. They result in pain, struggles, setbacks, failures until we learn them. Pain itself is not a stop sign, but a turn signal, propelling us, not punishing us, to a better place, a better situation. But we need to capture that. And so utilize and practice creating a capture strategy for finding your essence, your frequency, and the strength of your signal. It'll allow it to grow and accelerate as well. The second step is modify. There's so many different platforms, and there's going to be so many different platforms. Just when you thought you had it all done, boom, there goes Clubhouse. Boom, there goes TikTok. Boom, there goes another platform. Once you've captured your content, you now can modify it to suit the different audiences or spectrum that you want, the different time frames, the different colors, the different captions, the different editing tools. Once you capture it in perpetuity, you are now creating a modification strategy so that it's most aligned, synergistic, and supplementary to the audience on the platform that you want to utilize. One capture, I'm a big fan of buying billboards right now. That's right, billboards. Why? Because not only do I get all the traffic on the freeway that's passing by repeatedly seeing the name of my TV shows or my podcast, but I can simply drive by with a phone, capture the billboard, modify it in so many different ways that allows me to get an extended, amplified value from one billboard. Not only do I get the normal value, but I now can modify it so you can see the billboard on TikTok. I have a story I was in American Way magazine. It was one of the bucket list things that I had. I wanted to be featured. I travel 200 days a year. I want to be featured in one of these, flight magazines. And I thought I was so smart when they came to me in 2019. Mr. Meltzer, we want to do 2 features on you. What months do you want? And I said, I want the holiday months, right? Of course, November and December, when everybody's traveling. I want everyone, right? Ego coming into play. I want everyone to see it. Well, meanwhile, pandemic hits, the lowest amount of people ever traveling in November and December. But what's so interesting is I captured the magazine in a variety of different ways. I told my humble story about arrogance and my ego, and I took a picture, video of it, and said, "Look, here's the article nobody ever saw. I'm such an egotistical. If I just would have been humble and done it in February, everybody, right?" Well, meanwhile, I created lessons out of it, and I still showed it. And then millions more people than ever would have seen it in the pocket of an airplane got to see the videos, and it's still there. And people still comment on it, where that magazine's long gone. So not only do you want to capture everything, but you can modify it. Why? So you can amplify it. If you believe the whole world is your stage, then the size, scope, and scale of your audience is unfathomable. That's why Dr. Pimple Popper has such a huge community, because the size, scope, and scale of the audience is unfathomable. And when we learn and have amplification strategies of where and how to amplify the modified content, through channel partners, through other companies, through other carriers, networks, through other platforms, through our own social media. There's so many different ways to amplify your content. And one of the biggest compliments that I get on my brand is, "You're everywhere." I'm everywhere. Well, I am everywhere once I capture it. But after that, it's just modified and amplified everywhere to a size, scope, and scale that's unfathomable, so that people see me all the time. I learned this as a sports agent. There's a famous player we represented named Ryan Leaf. And unfortunately, he did not have the career he wanted. He's a dear friend of mine and a great guy. And he does a lot for people with addictions as well as people with mental health issues. But Ryan got into a fight in the locker room, a tantrum, more like a fight. Well, what happened was that got modified and amplified so many different times that in people's minds, it happened 100, if not 1,000 times. And the negative brand was perpetuated in the way that he didn't want it. It was amplified as well. I use that to my favor by taking me in the highest light to teach the highest lessons, whether it's illuminating the mistakes, failures, and setbacks that I have, from losing over $100 million to making it back, whatever it may be, or to be an idiot in the American Way magazine story, whatever it may be. I'm capturing, modifying, and amplifying, and I'm continuing to build a process, procedures, systems, efficient, effective, and statistical, successful ways to capture an unfathomably large size, scope, and scale of an audience. And I create a strategy around all 3 of those. Why? Because the best part of the whole world being your stage and having such a huge audience is the perpetual nature of it. I started to realize through Netflix, the binge watching age, when I'd come home and my oldest daughter would ask me, "Hey, Dad, have you ever seen this TV show called Friends?" When I was watching Friends decades and decades ago, I had never imagined that my daughter would binge watch in a perpetual platform Friends. When you build what you capture and modify what you capture and amplify what you capture with perpetual legacy in mind, knowing that you can transcribe everything you do so that you have a word searchable document, a video that's word searchable, so that 10, 20, 30 years from now, when some other piece of content that you've captured has excited someone, that they can go back 30 years from now and learn those lessons, and they can see and binge watch you as a brand. Once again, accelerating, growing, and compounding the interest in the spectrum, strengthening your signal, growing your community, and building your brand even after you're gone. This stage theory, this Shakespeare guy, not only to thine own self be true, by strengthening your signal, not paying attention or giving attention to what you don't want, what's missing, or what other people want for you, but instead looking at what you want. To thy own self by true. Changing the way that you look at things, using the 5 daily practices of knowing your what, your who, your how, and your now, and learning to apply your why by identifying the triggers of the ego, stopping, dropping, and rolling, knowing when you're an ego-based consciousness, your mind, your body, and soul are on fire. Everybody knows when you're on fire, you got to stop, drop, and roll. And then Shakespeare again tells us the whole world is our stage. We need to create processes and strategies in order to incorporate capturing everything of the lessons and stories that we have, modifying it and continually learning to modify it to all the different available platforms, and then amplifying it everywhere. In order to amplify it everywhere so that you have a perpetual database of you, your frequency that can build on itself and thrive, you need to ask for help. People ask me all the time, what's the number one thing you would tell your 18-year-old self? Well, it's the same thing I would tell my 28, 38, 48. I'm 53 years old right now. And I tell myself every day, I have it on my nightstand: radical humility. On my screensaver, radical humility. I'm living in ignorant humility. I am not taking myself seriously. I don't know what I don't know. And knowing that I don't know what I don't know, knowing that I live within a context of limitlessness and infinity, that I'm connected to and through the greatest source of omniscient, all power, all knowing being that cares more about me than I care about my own children, I ask for help. I have an insurance policy called faith. I used to live in a currency called money. It was an object of energy that I put into the flow to get what I wanted. I grew up poor, 6 kids in my family, a single mom, packed my dinner in a paper bag and worked 2 jobs just so I could eat. But I learned that money is a currency. I used to think money would buy me love and happiness, but it won't. But it certainly will allow you to shop. And if you shop for the right things for the right reasons, you certainly will be happy. And if you use that currency, that object of energy, to put into the flow to get what you want, the same as you use faith. Faith is an object of energy that you put into the flow to get what you want. And with your faith, if you shop for what you want for the right reasons, the what, the who, the how, the now, and apply your why, you'll be very happy. You will make a lot of money, you will help a lot of people, and you will have a lot of fun. You will enjoy the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit of your own potential. You will know your own potential within your own self. Utilizing 3 laws: the law of gravity. We all know the earth is rotating, hurling, and uh, spinning, but yet we're exactly where we're supposed to be, at the right place at the perfect time. I am happy, healthy, wealthy, and worthy. Now I'm going to use the law of Goya, Goya, to get off my ass and clear that interference between me and what I'm connected to and through, to appreciate through gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, to live inspired and give it away, to acknowledge and acquire the knowledge of what I have by giving it away, so that what? From the law of gravity to the law of Goya to the law of allowance. By clearing the interference between me and unlimitlessness, infinity, between me and what already exists, my happiness, my health, my wealth, and my worthiness, more in my life will come rapidly and accurately. More that comes to me rapidly and accurately, I can appreciate, add value to, and give it away. None of it happens if you don't ask for help. Ask for help. I am here for you. So many others are here for you. Please reach out to me. Like I said, I will give you any of my guides, the 5 daily practices, habit machine, my book, ebook, audiobook. I'll sign a book, send it to you, pay for shipping. Who else will do that? David at dmeltzer.com. Please reach out to me, David at dmeltzer.com. I appreciate everyone. Let me help you help yourself, make a lot of money, help a lot of people, have a lot of fun. You can find your frequency, brand yourself, and build your community of like-minded, open-hearted, and open-handed people. Remember, most importantly, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. I'd be happy to answer some questions. All right. There we go.
I'm coming. I'm coming.
David, double David, how are you?
David Squared. Good name. Good name. Awesome talk. That was incredible. You had the audience riveted here. Lots of really incredible comments in the chat, and a lot of really good questions for you. So yeah, drop your favorite emojis right now for a round of applause for David to let him know how you felt about that chat. That's our CMX version of standing ovations. Just
Right
more
on.
emojis. All right, cool. Well, we got lots of questions. I know we got a hard stop at 11. Um, we'll go in order of how many votes they got. So if you haven't already, go into the Q&A and vote up the ones you really want to see answered. All right, so top one here. How do you apply? This was asked about 18 minutes ago, so maybe a little before you got into the practical stage theory, but how do you apply this to building a community for someone else when you work for a company,
Yeah,
for
so
example?
utilizing the stage theory works extremely well with a company. In fact, I'm a huge proponent of entrepreneurship because I think as the pendulum has swept through the pandemic, there's much more opportunity to get all the benefits of being an entrepreneur without the risk. Because companies will let you work at home, work on your own time. You have equity positions you can have, and more importantly, the value of benefits have risen so much that to have the stability with the freedom is incredible. So within the context of that, this stage theory can set you apart. When you start speaking in the context of frequency of the company's brand, the same way as Dr. Pimple Popper does, and start creating strategies to capture what you do, the product, service, or solution, to talk about modifying it in ways that they've never heard before. But the real key is amplification, right? Because my whole idea about the American Way magazine or a billboard that can be utilized in traditional companies way easier than an individual brand. If you're already buying, advertising in a traditional manner, radio, print, TV, etc., to come in and say, hold on a second, let me amplify this tenfold in its value, its reach, its exposure, and its awareness by capturing what we do. Or if they're not utilizing traditional media anymore and saying, hold on, it's a lot cheaper instead of creating something in a virtual meta world to just take something that actually exists, like a print ad, and then amplify it into a digital format and make it meta for a lot less money and get the original audience from the traditional ad, you will set yourself apart in a company setting by being an entrepreneur, and you will guaranteed build that frequency and brand and add value to the company.
Totally. And I'll add, for those of us doing community management, running online communities are a wealth of content creation that usually just end up living in the forum or the Facebook group or wherever it is that people are talking. But how can you create opportunities to amplify the content that's coming out of your community, the insights? You put the spotlight on your members. Doesn't even have to be content that you create. On that note, the second most popular question was mine, so I get to ask my own. I'm curious. Yeah, so practically speaking, how do you go about modifying content for all the different platforms? Do you just have like one person that you send the videos to, and they slice it and dice it and add captions and all that? Do you use any tools like for
Great
these
question.
community managers? How do they practically do that?
Yeah, great question. So one, when you're small enough, you can do it yourself. Two, then you hire one person, and then you start hiring one person and splitting the different platforms. And then as you grow, there's one person for each platform, and it's a perfect opportunity to outsource because when you have control of your content, your frequency, then you can create templates for outsourced individuals to cost effectively. Once you have a template, start giving the quotes or the mantras or the speeches, the Q&A sessions. Even this here, right? We're going to repurpose and amplify it far past the hundreds of people that are looking at it live. We're going to amplify this to millions of people in different segments and different questions. Maybe it'll be David and David here. Not only will I amplify it for myself as a platform, but I'll make it so attractive and sexy and consumable that when I send it to David, he'll resend it out to everyone in his audience, in his community, so that amplification takes on. But you start with one person, maybe yourself, and continue to template these things out, because when you do, it will seem as if you're everywhere. And it's very cost effective when you're capable of, in the modification phase, of templating it and outsourcing it, and very inexpensive.
Got it. When it comes to video, are there any tools that you know of that make it easy for one person to do it, or do you just have to kind of learn some basic
Premiere is probably the best place to start.
Premiere? Yeah.
But feel free. Look, reach out to me. I am like St. Jude Hospital. I share all my traits. They want to cure cancer, so they'll give all their research to everyone. I want to make the whole world happy. I want to make the whole world make money, help people, and have fun. So call me for any softwares that my team's using. I'll put you in touch. My email's in the notes, david@dmeltzer.com.
Love it. All right, I think we got like 10 more questions, so we'll go rapid fire. Ashish Tarawi asked, best books on communities. Any book recommendations that you like on the topic of community?
It's so interesting because the books that I read, I think all are community books. For example, Wayne Dyer, Power of Intention. I believe The Course in Miracle is all about community because it's about utilizing and not separating, right? So anything that, to me, like Wayne Dyer or The Course in Miracles, in the oneness aspect of it. And then I think Think and Grow Rich is a great one about a collective consciousness, about what we do as individuals in this process of being kind and doing good deeds, which are the superpowers of building your community. Is if you could take the context of your skills, knowledge, and desire and put it into thoughtfulness, into the aspect of being kind and doing good deeds with what your skills, knowledge, and desire are, your community will grow exponentially because the truth vibrates the fastest.
Love it. All right, Power Intention. That's a good recommendation. All right, next question is from Kate. Any tips for someone not great at self-promotion? This personal trait of mine seems to be influencing my businesses in a negative way. I get stuck whenever I try to tackle any of the things you're talking about around building audience.
Yeah, so it's not self-promotion. It's letting people know who you are. It's actually different. So you got to include strengths and weaknesses. Self-promotion, I think I'm more popular because I lost over $100 million than anything else in my life. And that's not a promotion, but it's the truth. Now, do I tell people I won Variety Magazine, Sports Humanitarian, where the Ellis Island Medal of Honor, I've been knighted. I mention those organically, but I utilize them to add credibility so I can create an emotional attachment. So get comfortable with, if you feel you don't like to brag, then illuminate the negative things. It's a way of still strengthening your signal as long as you teach people the lesson you learn. But you need to be able to speak about yourself, positive, negatives, weaknesses, and strengths.
100%. That vulnerability is key. It made me think of a quote from Arlen Hamilton, the founder of Backstage Capital, who spoke at CMX a long time ago, and it always stuck with me. She said, I'm going to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of, use your voice so that the people who are looking for you can find you.
That's my whole speech today. That's
right?
It's more frequency, right? We don't have to use our voice. We can use video and quotes, and use you to let the people who are like-minded, open-hearted, open-handed, and open-minded like you to find you.
Exactly. And you never know, like there are people who are looking for you that feel alone and isolated in those thoughts or that frequency, that if you put it out there, that will make them feel seen.
I have to add this real quick. I know I play this game that I give people like 10 minutes and then I talk all the time. So I apologize, but you have to hear this. This is the problem with speakers, is that when they speak for the first time, 10% of the people hear them. So they'll stay and tell them, that's the best speech I ever heard. You changed my life. But no speaker looks at the other 90%. What I want you to do is find yourself so much by strengthening your signal, knowing your spectrum, and clarifying your message, that not just the 10% that naturally are looking for you resonate with you, but it becomes 20% and 30%. And pretty soon you can do something like this. And hopefully, like I did today, at least 50% of the people I'm finding, and they're finding me, compared to the natural 10% that we all get.
Love it. Definitely a hard threshold to break through, hard ceiling to break through. All right, next question is from Damian Smith about the quote, "To thine own self be true." At what point does any scalable brand message become inorganic or non-personal? Can it be avoided?
Well, you cannot control what other people think. So if you're true to yourself and it is not organic to other people, then it's not organic to other people. If you feel as if you're being organic to yourself or true to yourself, I imagine that certain people in the spectrum, because they always do, are going to have resistance to what you're saying. And one of the adjectives that they'll utilize to describe is he's fake, he's bullshit, he's whatever it is. That's okay, because I think those people protect me because they're not like me. They're not seeking me. And so what do? They may go out there and say, oh, Dave Meltzer is full of shit, but you shouldn't listen to his books, blah, blah, blah. And the people that are on that frequency are going to agree and go, okay, thank you. They're protecting me from more of those close-minded people. Well, the people who do resonate with me are going to protect me. They're going to say, oh no, that book changed my life. I don't care what you said. That TV show is awesome. I don't care what you say. That meatloaf's the best I've ever tasted. I don't care what you say. So don't be afraid of the people that think you're inauthentic or non-organic or they don't like you. They're protecting you by aggregating all the people of like minds, and they're strengthening the people that like you.
Love it. All right. We have maybe a few more. I think this is a good question from Ashish again. What is the right way to pitch or explain your community to people?
So I think there's 5 ways to pitch your community to people or explain your community. One is to be credible. Go through what you're saying with a fine-tooth comb. Don't oversell, exaggerate, manipulate, lie, or cheat about your community. 2, look to see what people like and don't like about your community, because that creates an emotional attachment. 3, quantify the reasons to be in the community. Quantify them. Say, here's some not subjective, not the purple dinosaur. I love you. You love me. Nobody makes any money. No, quantify the reasons and then explain the impact. Explain the impact and then use the capabilities of the community as arsenal to support the credibility, emotional attachment, the quantification of the reasons, and the impact that you have. People will be attracted with open minds or like minds to your community.
Love it. All right, this one's from Shanika. I'm trying to spread it out so everyone gets questions in here. Shanika Crawford, what's the best way to answer a question? I guess this is kind of like in a job interview or something about your greatest strengths and greatest weaknesses. I want to be truthful about my successes, yet vulnerable about my weaknesses without disqualifying myself.
Yeah, well, know your capabilities as far as strengths go. And the way that we know those is usually they go undetected because it's the little things that people say, hey, you're really good at that, or how do you do that? So know those things. Listen for people telling you, like, hey, how did you do that? Because we take that for granted because it's quantum in our nature. So we think it's easy for everyone. But look for that as your strengths. As far as your weaknesses, go ahead and understand you have ego as your weakness. So pick out, for me, I have a need to be offended. It's a huge weakness of mine. I have a need to be right. Huge weakness of mine. I used to have a need to worry, but I've really worked on it. So pick out some of those needs of your ego, list them out as weaknesses, and people will not only be impressed, but also understand that you're an honest, vulnerable person.
All right. All right. Let's squeeze in a couple more. Lauren Dunn asked, David, what are your thoughts on the 5 a.m. club?
I'm a 4 a.m. club guy, and I believe in my tomorrow starts today. So I'm actually what I would call a 9 p.m. club. I have an unwinding routine, which I'll send to everyone. So my tomorrow starts today. No alcohol, drugs, caffeine, negative energy, negative content, negative circumstances by 9 o'clock. So I can pass out, putting my body, my mind, and the soul in a position to plateau and grow. Don't live your life like a tube. Don't start the day with the boulder at the bottom of the hill, push it up to have it roll down again. I plateau and grow with the 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. club. So come catch up with me. You'll get an extra hour a day.
So you're up at 4 a.m. every day.
At a high frequency. I drive people crazy. You do not want to be around me if you're not a morning person.
Oh my, that's not me. All right. I won't call you at 4 a.m., David. All right. Nick Laser asked, do you have any guides on building a community / your 5 daily practices? If so, where can I get it?
Yeah. So just to reiterate, thank you, Nick. That's a homer question. I got to be vulnerable. That guy works for me, so he's setting me up to remind me to everyone reach out to me, david@dmeltzer.com. I have guides. They're free. I have my book explains this ebook, audiobook. I'll sign a copy, send it to you, david@dmeltzer.com. And if you think of something else you need, I give 5-minute phone calls to anyone on earth, 20-minute live meetings or interviews to anyone on earth. I'm very hard on that time frame, but go ahead, reach out to me and set it up, david@dmeltzer.com. Thank you.
Awesome. Love it. Well, David, this was awesome. We got through, I think, all the questions here. Really appreciate your time and your wisdom and just taking the time to spend with all of us. I know this was really inspirational for everyone, and it was for me. So
thank you. There's a reason the
grateful.
word David means beloved, and you're all beloved
That's
today.
right.
Thank you so much. Take care.
See you later. All right, everybody. Thanks so much again for joining us. Just as a reminder, pulling up my slide one more time here. There we go. So next event is going to be coming up on October 12th. It's with Nisha Baxi from Gong about how to build a community in 90 days. This is going to be a very practical event. Today's was definitely on the more inspirational side. Next one's going to be your 90-day plan for launching a community based on how Nisha did this at Gong. Highly recommend you join us. We'll post the event link here in the chat. There it is from Ivan. Thanks, Ivan. Otherwise, thank you everybody for joining us. Really appreciate you all being here, participating in the chat, being a part of this community. We're super grateful for you all, and we will see you at the next CMX event. And make sure to join the CMX communities if you haven't already. Go to cmxhub.com/community, join the Facebook group, the Slack, email, wherever you like to participate, and continue to connect with each other. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weeks and the rest of your days. Bye.